You've arrived. The past welcomes you with open arms. Tonight, we drift back to the Middle Ages, a world of castles, kingdoms, faith, and endless struggle. Before we begin, if these stories help you rest, a like or subscribe would mean a lot. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from. It's always surreal to see people from England, India, or Argentina sharing the same journey across time zones. Now, get comfortable. Fix your pillows. Pull your blanket close. Let the noise of today fade. Your eyes open not to glowing screens, but to the glow of torches on stone walls, the echo of boots on cobblestone, and the distant toll of a church bell calling the faithful.
The air is cold, sharper than you're used to. There's no glass window to shield you, only wooden shutters that creak against the morning wind. Your bed is not soft and modern. It is a straw mattress, prickly, yet warmed by wool blankets heavy as stone. You push them aside and the smell of smoke and damp earth greets you. You're not in a city of glass towers. You're inside a timber house, its beams thick and darkened by years of fire and cooking smoke. Outside the world stirs. A rooster crows. The muffled sounds of wooden carts rolling across dirt roads carry through the chill. Step outside and you find yourself in a village. The houses are close, small, their thatched roofs golden and uneven. Muddy paths weave between them, scattered with footprints of chickens and geese. A dog barks. Children run barefoot, chasing each other, their laughter echoing against the simple walls. At the centre of the village, the church stands tall, not grand like the cathedrals of cities, but strong, built of stone with a crooked tower and single bell. This is not just a place for prayer, it is the village heart. Here, meetings are held, disputes are settled, news is carried, and time itself is marked. Life here is harsh, but steady. The people rise with the sun and work until its setting. Men bend their backs in the fields, ploughing with oxen, sowing seeds, and praying the harvest will not fail. Women spin wool, bake bread, brew ale, tend to children, and manage the rhythm of homes. Children, as soon as they can walk, help carry water, gather firewood, and scare crows from the crops. Food is plain, yet precious. Porridge, coarse bread, cabbage soup. On good days, meat from pigs or chickens, or fish pulled from rivers. Every meal is a gift, every crop a gamble. A bad season means hunger, and hunger means fear. Yet in the evenings, when the fields grow quiet, life softens. Families sit by the hearth, stories are told, songs are sung. The flames dance on faces weathered by work, and for a little while, the weight of toil fades into warmth and laughter. But look beyond the village, and you will see the world is much larger, much more dangerous. Across the land, castles rise like sleeping giants. Their stone walls loom above hills and rivers, their towers piercing the sky. Inside, lords and ladies rule with power handed down through generations. Knights train in courtyards, their swords flashing, their armour heavy and shining. They swear loyalty to their lord, and in return they are granted land, titles, and honour. The bond between lord and knight is sealed not only in words but in blood. For when the call of war comes, and it always does, knights ride out, banners fluttering, shields gleaming, horses thundering like storms. War is never far, kingdoms shift like restless waves, borders are drawn, erased, and redrawn. Kings fight other kings, barons rise against their rulers, rebellions spark among peasants when hunger grows unbearable. Violence is a constant shadow, and every village, no matter how small, feels its reach. But there is another power, stronger even than kings, the church. Its voice stretches across every land, from the smallest chapel in a meadow to the grandest cathedral in Rome. Priests speak of heaven and hell, of sin and salvation, of saints and miracles. Fear of the devil burns in every heart. A farmer who cannot read knows the stories of Adam and Eve, of Christ on the cross, of Judgment Day when all souls shall be weighed. Religion is not only faith, but law. To sin is not only to anger God, but to risk the punishment of men. To defy the church is to risk damnation in this world and the next. Pilgrimages draw thousands onto the roads, walking barefoot for weeks to holy shrines. Relics, bones of saints, fragments of the true cross, are treasured like jewels, believed to hold healing and divine power. And far beyond your village, far beyond your kingdom, the world is wider than most can imagine. Merchants travel along dusty roads, their wagons heavy with salt, spices, furs and silk. They bring stories of cities that gleam with marble, of deserts stretching farther than sight, of ships that sail into seas unknown. Most villagers will never leave their birthplace, but the ripples of distant lands still reach them, in the form of coins, fabrics, and even new ideas. Whispers travel with these traders, whispers of holy wars in the east, the Crusades, where knights clash against armies of Islam, where banners of the cross fly against banners of the crescent. To some, it is glory. To others, it is grief. Families weep as their sons march away, uncertain if they will ever return. Still, life continues with all its rhythms. The seasons turn. Spring brings planting, summer brings labour, autumn brings harvest, winter brings survival. The wheel of the year never stops, and neither do the people. In every corner of this world there is struggle, faith, beauty, and pain. 1,000 lives unfolding at once, lords and peasants, knights and monks, merchants and beggars. Their stories weave together into a tapestry as vast as the sky. And now, standing at the edge of the village, you can feel it. The pull to wander deeper, to see the world beyond. For every road, every forest path, every river, leads to another story waiting to be told. You step onto a dirt road leading away from the village, and the world begins to change. The path winds between fields and forests until, in the distance, you see it, a castle rising like a mountain of stone. Its walls are tall, cold, unyielding. Towers stand like watchful eyes, and a moat glimmers below, dark and still. Drawbridges creak as they lower, and you cross into a courtyard alive with movement. Here, the life of the nobility unfolds. Knights polish their armour, squires run with buckets of water, blacksmiths hammer iron into gleaming swords, horses snort, pawing the ground, their saddles heavy with crests of gold and scarlet. The great hall smells of roasted meat and candle wax. Long tables stretch beneath banners that flutter with family symbols. Lions, eagles, crosses, wolves. Lords sit in fur-lined robes, their voices booming as they argue over land, taxes and honour. Ladies in gowns of silk and velvet watch from beside the hearth, their hair braided with ribbons, their laughter carrying beneath the vaulted roof. At the high table the lord of the castle presides. His word is law within these walls. He owns the fields around him, commands the villages, and owes his loyalty to the king above him. Yet loyalty is never simple. Behind smiles and feasts whispers coil like smoke. Alliances form, betrayals brew. Even at the height of celebration, daggers rest not far from reach. Beyond the feasting, training never ceases. In the lists, wooden stands fill with onlookers as knights clash in tournaments. The ground shakes with the thunder of hooves, lances shatter, shields splinter, and the crowd roars. These contests are more than games. They're displays of strength, skill, and pride. Victory brings honour, defeat brings shame. Blood spilled in the lists is a reminder that war is never far. Step outside the castle walls, and you may find yourself swept up in war itself. The 12th and 13th centuries roar with the cries of crusades. Kings as knights march eastward, called by the Pope to reclaim the Holy Land. Banners embroidered with the Red Cross rise above thousands of soldiers, their armour flashing beneath the sun. The journey is long, harsh, unforgiving. Roads stretch across mountains, deserts, seas. Armours weaken from hunger and thirst before ever facing an enemy. When battles come, they are brutal. Swords striking, arrows flying, fire raining upon walls. Cities burn and countless lives are lost, Christian and Muslim alike. But the Crusades are not only war, they're crossroads of cultures. From these journeys, Europeans bring back spices, sugar, glacier and silk. They bring new words, new ideas, new sciences. And though blood stains the earth, knowledge seeps quietly into Europe, carried on ships and in the minds of travellers. Meanwhile, back in the castle of Europe, life continues with both luxury and fear. Nobles sleep on feather beds beneath tapestries woven with hunting scenes and saints. Servants scurry in silence, carrying trays of food, jugs of wine, basins of water. Courtyards echo with music, lutes and flutes, voices raised in song. Yet behind stone walls fear lingers. The plague of famine hovers with every poor harvest. Enemies prowl beyond borders, and the church's shadow looms ever larger. For in these centuries, faith is not only belief, it is the very structure of life. Monks in monasteries rise before dawn, their chants drifting through cloisters like soft winds. They spend their days copying texts by hand, each letter carefully inked, each page illuminated with gold. Knowledge of the ancient world, Greek, Roman, Arabic, survives in these silent rooms. Without their patient work, much would be lost to time. Pilgrims walk barefoot across continents, their staffs in hand, their eyes fixed on holy shrines. Canterbury, Santiago, Rome, Jerusalem, each a beacon drawing souls who seek forgiveness, healing, or salvation. They walk for weeks, months, years. Many never return, yet their faith pushes them forward, step by aching step. The Church governs more than souls. It crowns kings, blesses wars, collects tithes, and excommunicates rulers who disobey. Its voice can raise armies, its silence can bring kingdoms to ruin. Priests stand in every village, their sermons warning of sin, their hands guiding births, marriages, deaths. But even as faith unites, it divides. Heresies emerge, voices questioning, doubting, rebelling against the authority of Rome. They are met with fire. Heretics are dragged into squares, bound to stakes and burned. The smoke rises as a warning, defy the church and suffer. Yet quietly, behind closed doors, new ideas still stir. Scholars debate in early universities, Paris, Bologna, Oxford. They read Aristotle, they argue theology, they struggle to fit reason with faith. Their words may not yet change the world, but seeds are planted, waiting for centuries to bloom. And still, as you wander from castle to monastery, from battlefield to classroom, the rhythm of the medieval world continues. The peasants toil, the nobles feast, the knights ride, the monks pray. The merchants travel. The wheel turns, And with every turn, new stories rise. Stories of power, faith, hunger, rebellion and hope. The air changes as you step forward in time. The year is now the middle of the 14th century. You stand in a village once alive with chatter, but silence hangs heavy. Doors are shut, fields lie untended, and carts creak with a grim burden. For death has come, not as a single battle, nor as a famine that starves slowly, but as a sickness swift and merciless. It sweeps across Europe like a shadow, carried by rats and fleas, carried by trade ships and crowded roads. First a fever, then boils rising on the skin, black and swollen. Within days life ends. Families collapse together in their homes. Streets fill with bodies. Bells toll endlessly, though their sound brings no comfort now. Some villages vanish entirely, their people gone. Cities, once bursting with life, reek of smoke and decay. Priests stumble through alleys, blessing the dying, though many fall ill themselves. Fear grips every soul. Some pray harder, whipping themselves in penance. Others abandon hope, turning to drink, to violence, to desperate pleasures. And yet, when the shadow finally passes, the world is changed. So many are gone that fields remain empty. Crops wither, mills turn idle. But for the survivors, something unexpected happens. Labour becomes precious. Peasants demand higher wages. Serfs, once bound to their lords, slip away to towns, where freedom waits behind city walls. Power begins to shift, quietly, like soil beneath roots. Cities grow, buzzing with life despite the scars of plague. Their streets are narrow, crowded, filled with noise and colour. Merchants display fabrics dyed in brilliant blues and reds. Butchers chop meat on wooden blocks. Bakers lift loaves steaming from ovens. Children dart through the press of people, dodging carts and shouting vendors. The smell is thick. Smoke, bread, dung, fish, sweat. Rats scurry underfoot. Dogs bark. Bells ring from towers above. In these cities, life is harsh but alive, always moving, always changing. Guilds rule much of this urban world. Carpenters, weavers, masons, tailors. Each trade guards its secrets closely, passing them only to apprentices who swear loyalty. To belong to a guild is to have protection, dignity, and a place in the city's heart. To be outside it is to be adrift. Markets spill with goods from far away. Cloth from Flanders, spices from the east, silver from mines deep in the mountains. Ships dock in harbours, their sails heavy with the wind of foreign lands. Alongside goods, ideas arrive too. Stories of distant empires, new ways of thinking, whispers of worlds beyond the maps. But the city is not only trade and noise, it is also power. Councils gather in town halls of stone, debating laws and taxes. Burghers and merchants rise in influence, their wealth rivaling that of lesser lords. Some cities win charters of freedom, standing proudly independent, loyal not to a noble, but to themselves. Towers rise above walls, banners flutter proudly, and for the first time, the common folk begin to feel the weight of their own voices. Yet not all life is progress. Poverty clings to the corners of every street. Beggars with hollow eyes stretch their hands for coins. Orphans sleep beneath eaves. The poor crowd into wooden shacks where disease breeds easily, where a single fire can devour whole quarters. Life in the city is vibrant, but it is also fragile, balanced always between growth and ruin. Beyond the walls, the countryside continues its timeless rhythm. Ploughs carve earth, sheep graze hills, women gather herbs in baskets, but even here, change is stirring. Lords cannot control their peasants as easily as before. Rebellions break out. England, France, Flanders, peasants rise with scythes and clubs, demanding freedom, burning manors, defying those who once held unshakable power. The revolts are crushed, yes. Soldiers ride down peasants. Executions fill the squares. But something has shifted. The fear that once silenced the common folk no longer binds them so tightly. In castles, nobles look out from their towers with unease. Their walls are strong, their swords sharp, yet they sense the ground beneath them shifting. The world they knew, the firm order of lord and serf, knight and peasant, begins to tremble. And in monasteries, monks sense it too. Their libraries hold wisdom copied through centuries, but outside their cloisters, merchants and scholars now write their own books. Universities swell with students hungry for law, medicine, philosophy. Knowledge is no longer confined to monasteries. It is seeping outward, carried in parchment and ink, spreading like fire through dry grass. Even the church, mighty as it is, faces cracks. Popes and kings clash for dominance. Corruption breeds anger. Preachers rise in the streets, condemning the wealth of bishops, calling for a purer faith. Some are silenced quickly, but their words linger. Seeds waiting for another age to bloom. And so, as you walk through these centuries, you feel the tension building. The plague has torn holes in the old order. Cities grow louder, richer, bolder. Peasants demand more. Merchants gain power. Ideas travel farther, faster. The castle walls still stand, but beyond them the world is stirring, restless, ready to change. The medieval world is no longer what it was in the quiet fields of your first village. It is bigger, heavier with struggle, brighter with possibility. You sense that something is approaching, a dawn just beyond the horizon, though its light is not yet clear, and still the story continues, flowing forward. Imagine the morning once more, not in a castle or a plague-stricken town, but in the ordinary home of a peasant family. The light of dawn leaks through small shuttered windows. The hearth fire, banked overnight, is coaxed back into flame. Smoke curls upward, mingling with the smell of porridge cooking in an iron pot. The family stirs. Children yawn and stretch on straw-stuffed mattresses. A mother ties her linen shift tightly with a cord, slipping into a woolen kirtle dyed the soft brown of oak bark. Her husband pulls on hose patched at the knees, fastening them to his belted tunic. Their clothing is plain, homespun but sturdy. For warmth in winter, heavy cloaks are pulled over shoulders, fastened with simple brooches of iron or bone. Clothes mark every station of society. The peasant wears wool, rough and practical. The merchant wears finer cloth, sometimes imported, coloured with brighter dyes. Blues, greens, reds, each shade signalling wealth. Nobles flaunt velvets and silks, edged with fur from fox or ermine, their gowns long, their sleeves wide, their shoes pointed. In courts, fashion itself becomes a battlefield, each noble competing in splendour. Laws even try to restrain it, forbidding peasants from wearing silk or fur, reserving certain colours for royalty, but vanity finds ways to bend rules. Food, too, is a mirror of rank. In the cottages of peasants, meals are simple, bread is coarse, baked from rye or barley rather than fine wheat. Porridge fills bellies when little else can. Cabbage, onions, beans and turnips simmer in stews. On rare occasions a chicken is slaughtered, or a rabbit caught in the woods. Milk, cheese and butter provide richness when the cow is kind. Ale, weak but safe to drink, flows daily, brewed in the home. In castles the feast is a different world. Long tables groan under roasted boars, venison, swans presented with feathers still attached. Spices, pepper, cinnamon, ginger, dazzle the tongue, carried from far-off lands. Meat pies, almond tarts, sugared fruits gleam beneath candlelight. Wine from France or Italy pours into goblets of silver, and yet, even here, danger lurks. Food spoils easily, and cooks fight constantly against rot, smoke and flies. For children, life begins early. By the age of 5 or 6 they are already working, tending geese, carrying water, helping in fields. Childhood is short, fragile, and yet still filled with games. They chase hoops with sticks, play with carved dolls, wrestle in the mud. In the towns, children skip rope or toss balls sewn from rags. Laughter is everywhere, even in a world so harsh. Marriage binds communities together. Among peasants, weddings are simple, often in the village church, followed by a feast where ale flows freely. Dancing shakes the ground, and laughter echoes late into the night. Among nobles, marriages are not only love, but strategy. Alliances forged, lands joined, fortunes expanded. A bride may be only 12 or 14, her hand promised since infancy. Her wedding a union of families rather than hearts. Festivals lift the medieval world from its daily grind. Carnival erupts before Lent, with masks, games, and feasts of meat before the fasting begins. May Day blooms with flowers, ribbons, and dancing around tall poles. Harvest festivals fill barns with song and ale. Thanksgiving for survival through another year. And Christmas, a sacred time, gathers families before the hearth, exchanging gifts of bread, cheese, or a single candle, small treasures glowing in the coldest season. Religion marks every moment. The hours of the day are measured by bells from the church, matins at dawn, vespers at dusk. The calendar itself is laced with holy days, when work pauses and processions fill the streets. Saints are called upon for everything. St. Anthony for lost things, St. Christopher for safe travels, St. Roch against plague. Faith is not an abstract idea, it is the heartbeat of daily life. Yet superstition breathes alongside faith. Charms of iron are hung above doors to ward off evil. Herbs are tucked into pockets for luck. The phases of the moon are watched carefully, believed to guide planting, healing, even childbirth. In a world full of dangers unseen, every small ritual carries weight. The rhythm of living is constant. Work, prayer, rest, repeat. In summer, days stretch long, filled with endless labour. In winter, nights consume the hours, and families huddle together for warmth, mending tools, telling stories, spinning wool by firelight. Time is not measured by clocks, but by the rising and setting of the sun, the ringing of bells, the turning of seasons. And amid this daily life, joy exists. A shared loaf of bread, a dance at the festival, a story whispered to a child before sleep. The Middle Ages are not only war and fear, they're also laughter, song and love, scattered like bright threads through a tapestry of struggle. As you linger in these homes and fields, you begin to see the world is not only shaped by kings and knights, but by the countless hands of ordinary people living each day with courage, faith and endurance. Their voices, though often forgotten, are the true chorus of the medieval age. Close your eyes again and imagine stepping outside the narrow lanes of the village. Beyond the wooden fences, past the fields of wheat and rye, lies a world crisscrossed by roads, rivers and seas. Though the Middle Ages often feel like a time when people stayed bound to their little corners of land, movement never truly ceased. Merchants, pilgrims, messengers and wanderers kept the medieval world alive with motion. The roads themselves are ancient bones, many of them built long ago by the Romans, stones worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, hooves and wagon wheels stretch across the countryside. But time and neglect have left them uneven, muddy and sometimes dangerous. Bandits lurk in the woods, toll-keepers demand coin at bridges, and storms can turn a day's journey into misery. For the peasant, travel is rare. Most live and die within a day's walk of their birthplace. But for the merchant, the knight, the pilgrim, or the monk, the road is a lifeline. Inns stand at intervals along the way. Rough places with straw on the floor, a fire in the hearth, and ale served in wooden cups. Travellers share benches with strangers, telling tales to pass the night, all under the crackle of flames. Trade flows like blood through the arteries of the medieval world. In small villages, barter rules, eggs traded for cloth, milk for firewood. But in towns and cities, markets blossom into spectacles of colour and sound. Picture it, a square alive with shouting, smells of roasted meat, spices drifting through the air. Merchants lay out bolts of fabric dyed in bright blues and scarlets. Bakers sell warm loaves, their crusts golden. Butchers hang fresh meat beneath awnings, while fishmongers shout the price of their catch, still glistening from the river. Wool, England's treasure, is carted across the channel to Flanders, where skilled hands weave it into fine cloth. From the Mediterranean come olive oil, figs, almonds and wine. From the Far East, carried by caravan and ship, arrive wonders, silks, carpets, sugar, even the mysterious grains of spice that make dishes sing. Every merchant dreams of the great fairs of Champagne in France. There for weeks at a time, buyers and sellers from across Europe gather, Italians with their ledgers, Germans with iron goods, Flemish weavers with cloth, Englishmen with wool, and Levantine traders bearing spices from the east. These fairs are not just markets, they are crossroads of culture, places where news, ideas and inventions travel as swiftly as goods. Not all who walk the roads carry wares. Many travel for the sake of the soul. Pilgrimages are journeys of faith, made to holy shrines believed to hold the power of miracles. Perhaps you walk the long road to Santiago de Compostela in Spain, where the bones of St. James rest. The scallop shell, worn on your cloak, marks you as a pilgrim. Along the way, you join thousands of others, nobles and peasants alike, all walking under the same sun, sleeping in the same barns, praying in the same chapels. Others set their sights on Canterbury, to honour St. Thomas Becket, or to Rome itself, heart of Christendom. And for the bravest or most desperate, there is the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, a journey fraught with peril, yet carrying the promise of eternal grace. The roads hum with their footsteps, some limp with exhaustion, some sing hymns to keep spirits alive, some carry tokens of penance such as heavy crosses. The pilgrimage is not only a spiritual quest, but also a chance to see the wider world, to hear strange tongues, to taste new foods, to witness wonders unknown at home. Beyond the roads lie the waters, rivers winding like silver veins, seas stretching vast and perilous. The riverboat carries grain, salt, or passengers downstream, sails unfurling in the breeze. On the seas, cogs and galleys cut across waves, linking England with Flanders, Venice with Constantinople, Genoa with Alexandria. The ports are bustling cities unto themselves. Imagine Venice, her canals crowded with boats, warehouses stacked with silks and spices, bells ringing as ships depart. Genoa, her harbour filled with galleys, sailors shouting in Italian, Greek and Arabic. Lübeck, at the heart of the Hanseatic League, where merchants of the north barter timber, fish and furs. Sailors are rough, hardened by storms, their songs echoing across decks as they hauled ropes. To travel by sea is to embrace risk. Storms, pirates and shipwrecks are constant threats. Yet the lure of trade is too strong to resist. Each voyage might bring ruin or riches, and the gamble drives men to the water again and again. Every road, every market, every port is a place of meeting. A merchant from England may find himself bargaining with a silk dealer from Damascus. A pilgrim from France may share bread with a German knight bound for the Holy Land. Languages mix, coins change hands, and ideas leap like sparks across cultures. The compass, carried from the east, begins to guide ships with newfound certainty. Paper, filtering slowly into Europe, changes the way knowledge is stored and shared. Even distant rumours travel. Tales of Mongol horsemen, of strange creatures seen in far-off lands, of cities filled with gold. In these journeys we glimpse something vital about the Middle Ages. Though life may seem rooted and narrow, horizons are always stretching. Behind every village there is a road, behind every road a market, behind every market a sea, and across every sea another world waiting to be discovered. For the medieval traveller, each step is a risk, yet each step is also a thread, weaving Europe together, binding it not only in faith and feudal law, but in trade, stories, and shared humanity. So when you imagine the Middle Ages, do not only see castles and fields, see the roads winding outward, filled with footsteps and wheels, carrying dreams, prayers and ambitions into the wide unknown. The year is no longer early in the Middle Ages. Centuries have passed since the first rough fortresses of wood and stone rose against the horizon. Now the world has begun to change. Towns grow larger, markets hum with activity, and above them all, rising higher than anything seen before, stand the cathedrals, vast glittering monuments of stone and glass, like frozen prayers reaching toward heaven. Imagine approaching one from a muddy street. The houses around you are timber and plaster, small and crooked. But at the heart of the town, the cathedral towers above all else. Its walls soar upward, its roof braced with arches that curve like giant ribs. Light pours through stained glass windows, painting the floor in reds, blues and golds. Step inside and you're dwarfed by space itself. The ceiling seems to float, supported by delicate pillars. Candles flicker on altars, their flames mirrored in polished chalices. Monks chant in slow, deep tones, their voices echoing like waves through the stone. The air smells of incense, wax and old wood. These cathedrals are not built in years, they are the work of lifetimes. Stonecutters, carpenters, glassmakers and masons devote their lives to shaping blocks, carving statues, setting windows. A boy might begin as an apprentice and die an old man without ever seeing the cathedral completed. Yet the work goes on, generation after generation, because to build such a place is to honour God, and to leave behind something eternal. But it is not only stone that reaches upward. Knowledge too begins to climb. In earlier centuries, learning was locked away in monasteries, written in Latin on carefully guarded scrolls. But by the High Middle Ages, schools swell into something greater. Universities. Picture Paris in the 12th century. Students, young and eager, sit on hard benches in a hall. A teacher stands at the front reading from a book, for books are rare and precious, each copied by hand on parchment. The students repeat his words, memorizing, debating, questioning, Some are sons of nobles, others poor boys with sharp minds and stronger wills. Universities spring up in Bologna, Oxford and Salamanca. They study law, medicine, theology, and the ancient philosophies of Greece, carried into Europe through Arabic scholars. Ideas that once seemed lost in the ruins of Rome are reborn, translated and argued over in candlelit rooms. Learning is not easy. The language of study is Latin, and the method is strict, almost rigid. Yet within these halls the seeds of new thought are planted. Questions stir. Students wonder about the nature of the world, about reason and faith, about the order of the stars above. Books are treasures. A single volume may take months to copy, each letter written by hand, each page decorated with careful flourishes. Monks illuminate them with golden leaf and painted borders alive with vines, beasts and saints. To hold a book is to cradle both wisdom and art. But slowly the pace of knowledge begins to change. Paper, arriving from China through the Islamic world, spreads into Europe. It is cheaper than parchment, easier to make, and more abundant. Libraries begin to grow. The thought of storing thousands of texts no longer feels impossible. Though the printing press has not yet arrived, the world is preparing for it. Knowledge, once rare as jewels, begins to flow more freely. The medieval mind does not separate faith and knowledge as we do today. For them, the study of the world is another path to understanding God's creation. Astronomy, medicine, mathematics, all are pursued with devotion. Imagine scholars gazing at the night sky, charting the stars with quills and ink, doctors studying the humours of the body, mixing herbs into potions, tending to the sick with what wisdom they can. Philosophers debating the balance of reason and revelation, some daring to ask if the world might be explained not only by faith, but by natural law. Great thinkers emerge, men like Thomas Aquinas, who blends reason and belief into a single vast structure of thought, or Roger Bacon, who whispers experiments and observation, hinting at a method beyond tradition. It is a fragile age of curiosity, often restrained by fear of straying too far from accepted truth. Yet the hunger for understanding cannot be silenced. Not all learning belongs to scholars. In towns, guilds train apprentices to become skilled artisans, blacksmiths, weavers, masons, carpenters. A boy of 12 might begin by sweeping a workshop, watching the master's hands, learning slowly, until one day he too can shape iron or wood with skill. In villages, knowledge is older, passed down through practice. Farmers know the turning of the seasons, the signs of weather, the care of animals. Midwives carry secrets of birth, herbs and healing. Storytellers recite old tales by firelight, keeping memory alive where no book exists. Learning in the Middle Ages is everywhere, in the monastery, in the guild, in the field, in the whispered lore of families. Some of it is written, some of it spoken, some of it hidden, yet together it forms the fabric of a world that is slowly awakening. The cathedrals rise, the universities grow, and books spread like seeds. Faith and reason walk hand in hand, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in tension. But everywhere there is motion, upward, outward, onward. The Middle Ages are not only about darkness and war, but about light, colour, and the steady blossoming of human thought. Each stone laid, each word copied, each question asked, carries the world closer to something new, something just beyond the horizon. And as the bells of the cathedral toll, echoing over the town, the people of the Middle Ages, as farmers, merchants, monks, students, continue their journey, unaware that they are shaping a future far greater than they can imagine. The medieval world, with its cathedrals, markets and quiet villages, often seems unshakable, bound by tradition, faith and the turning of the seasons. Yet beneath the surface cracks form, tensions build, and like storm clouds gathering over a still landscape, conflicts begin to break the calm. It begins with kings. The thrones of England and France are tangled in claims and marriages and rivalries. In the year 1337, these quarrels ignite into a struggle that will last more than a century, the 100 Years' War. Picture the fields of Crécy. English archers stand with longbows, their arrows sharp as iron rain. Across the field, French knights in gleaming armour charge forward, banners snapping in the wind. The clash is thunderous, steel against steel, men against men. Yet the longbow cuts through the age of chivalry, piercing plate and pride alike. War sweeps across villages and farmlands. Armies trample wheat, burn homes and seize livestock. The common people, who have no say in the quarrels of kings, suffer the most. They flee into forests, hide their grain, pray that the storm of soldiers passes them by. And yet, in the midst of blood and ruin, stories of courage rise. One is of a young peasant girl from Domremy, Jeanne, or Joan of Arc. She hears voices she believes are from God, calling her to save France. In armour too heavy for her slight frame, she rides into battle with a banner in her hand, her faith unshaken. For a time, her presence changes the tide of war, filling armies with hope. Though her life ends at the stake, her spirit becomes immortal, echoing through the centuries. But war is not the only storm. The people of the land, peasants long bound to toil, begin to rise. Their burdens grow heavier with each passing year. Taxes, rents, and the endless demands of lords. After the Black Death, many believe life should change. Why should they suffer while the powerful feast? In 1381, the fields of England erupt in anger. Peasants march toward London, led by men like Wat Tyler. They carry staves, scythes, and sheer determination. Their voices thunder with demands: freedom from serfdom, fair wages, justice. For a moment, the old order trembles. The gates of London open. The king himself meets them, but promises made in fear are broken in calm. Wat Tyler falls, struck down in parley, and the uprising fades into silence. Yet the memory remains, a whisper that the common people, though bound, are not voiceless. Elsewhere too, unrest flares. In France, the Jacquerie rises. In Flanders, townsmen revolt. In countless villages, murmurs of rebellion stir like wind before rain. Though crushed, each revolt leaves behind a question that cannot be unasked. Must the poor always bow? Even the great anchor of medieval life, the church, begins to split. For centuries it has stood as one, the Pope in Rome, bishops, the abbots, the priests. But power is a dangerous crown. In 1378, the Great Schism tears Christendom in two. Two popes, one in Rome and another in Avignon, each claim to be the true shepherd of souls. Later, even a third will rise. Christendom is divided, faith shaken, believers unsure whom to follow. Scholars begin to question openly. Voices like John Wycliffe in England and Jan Hus in Bohemia speak against corruption, calling for a return to simplicity and truth. They challenge the wealth of the clergy, the selling of indulgences, the pride of men meant to be humble. Their words spread among the people, carried in whispers, sermons and handwritten tracts. For their defiance they suffer. House burns at the stake. Wycliffe's bones are dug up and scattered, yet ideas, once released, cannot be destroyed. They linger, seeds waiting for a future age to blossom. Even among the lords, unrest brews. Feudal ties weaken as kings grow stronger. Castles that once held sway over valleys now bow to centralised crowns. Knights, once the pride of chivalry, find themselves outmatched by new weapons. The longbow, the crossbow, and, looming on the horizon, the thunder of gunpowder. Tournaments still dazzle, with bright banners and jousts before cheering crowds. But on the battlefield, the knight's glory fades. Armour grows heavier, weapons deadlier, and the old ways of honour buckle beneath the weight of necessity. War becomes not just courage and steel, but strategy, supply and mercenaries hired for coin. Everywhere, the old order trembles. The farmer questions his lot. The scholar questions authority. The soldier questions chivalry. Change creeps in, sometimes quietly, sometimes with fire and sword, yet life continues. In the midst of war, children are born. In the shadow of rebellion, harvests are gathered. In times of schism, prayers still rise to heaven. The Middle Ages do not collapse in a single moment. They bend, shift and sway, carrying the world towards something new. Though those who live it cannot yet see where the path leads. The storms of conflict and rebellion do not erase the calm rhythms of medieval life, but they reshape them. Like cracks in a frozen river, they spread outward, preparing the way for a thaw that will change everything. And as the bells toll again across the towns and villages, their sound carries not only worship, but also warning, that the age is shifting, that the world is restless, and that tomorrow may not be the same as today. The medieval world has weathered centuries of storms. It has endured plagues, wars, famines, and rebellions. It has built cathedrals of soaring stone and carved stories into stained glass. It has sung hymns in monasteries and argued philosophy in universities. But now, in the 15th century, the age begins to shift in ways that even the wisest could scarcely have imagined. The Middle Ages, once so steady and familiar, begin to glow.